Welcome to Relative Insights. Our mission is for all people to access transformational and educational resources in the field of mental health and emotional wellness. Doris and Jennifer discuss current issues and approaches to living a life of hope and fulfillment. This podcast is not a replacement for therapy. The conversations, guests, tips discussed are provided as educational, thought-provoking, and inspiring. Our opinions are not specific therapeutic advice. Views expressed are our own personal perspectives and experiences. Information heard here is to be used at your caution and discretion. As always, please seek out individual mental health care to best serve you. Welcome to Relative Insights. This is a very exciting day for us because we have two special guests and we're talking about something that you wouldn't expect, which is gaming. I think it's important to acknowledge that all four of us have experience playing video games or a history of gaming, but it's all at different levels. But we're going to look at gaming and its relationship to mental health. And before we get into it, let me introduce the two guests. We have Lee from across the pond, who is a beat maker and longtime gamer. How long have you been gaming, Lee?
Since I was, probably since I was between 5 and 10.
Awesome.
So,
okay.
Since I was a kid, really, and then into adulthood.
Cool. And then our other guest is coming from the business end. He's been in the field of gaming for the past 17 years and has worked with industry giants such as 2K, Bethesda, and Capcom. Jonathan, thank you for coming. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great. How long have you been gaming, John?
Probably as long as I could hold a controller. I'd say about 4 years of age, playing NES.
Nice.
That's cool. All right, Doris, let's get into it.
You can cut that.
Well, you didn't say how long you've been gaming, cuz. You didn't say what you were.
I feel like it was 9 years old. At least that was there were like two memories etched in my mind, which is playing over Thanksgiving as a child with all of our family over on the NES. And then on my birthday for when I was 9 years old, playing with my brother and my dad trying to move the controller to jump over a gap. And it failed miserably.
When controllers had wires, yes, which, some do still. But, now they're wireless and it's so much easier for, parents to maneuver through the house. Yes, absolutely.
Did anyone remember joysticks?
Yes, Atari.
Those joysticks is where it started for me. 2 buttons and a joystick.
I'm kind of shocked at that. Like, I won't say how old you are, but, you're in your 30s, later 30s, right?
Amiga Commodore. That's the first computer I played.
Wow.
Will anybody really know what that is? I'm not sure. I
want to know. It sounds like a ship.
It was for a family who couldn't afford a Sega or a Nintendo.
I was trying to figure out if that was a British thing, if that was something in England. Like, I don't remember that at all. Like, I don't.
It's not very well known. It's very retro, old thing. Yeah, the games are on floppy disk.
Oh.
Do you still have that system?
I think it's in my dad's loft still.
Do we even count that?
Cool.
Do we count floppy disk gaming? Because if that's the case, my first experience of gaming was that old school like floppy disk you got at school where you have like the wagon and the horse and the old. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jen? Yes, Oregon.
Yes, and you died
They brought
from
that back.
dysentery.
My kid has a copy now. I was like, what?
And you saw the rotted meat because you hunted too much.
Yes, that was my first experience with gaming. That's when I first realized I love gaming. Like, and then obviously into Atari and Sega and Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation and PC gaming. Like, I love it all. I love it all.
All right, I guess we should talk about how it relates to mental health.
Yeah, let's get into mental health a little bit.
I feel like we could just compare video games and stories.
I know, right? I know you're excited about this because you've been waiting for this one, Jennifer. Like, you were like, let's have podcasts on gaming. I'm like, yes. I don't feel super well versed in gaming per se, but I will do my best on my end. I'll start off by saying this, there's a lot of myths out there, and I'm hoping any parent that listens to this will walk away and feel a little bit differently about gaming and their kids, whether or not they choose to expose their kids to gaming. But, there's a lot of myths that gaming rots your brain, and I heard that from my parents, and, I'm sure some of you may have heard that from your parents. But, gaming has a lot of mental health benefits. There's not a whole lot of research out there. I know Jennifer's done a little bit on her end, but the only thing I really found that was quite beneficial was this research done by Oxford University, where they actually put an article out there to say, hey, gaming can actually be positive for mental health. It came at a time, after COVID, because I feel like a lot of people really got into gaming, online gaming, especially during COVID, because it was their way of kind of reaching out to other people that, they were no longer able to see, face to face anymore. And so they got an opportunity to get online, put on the headset and sit there and game for hours and hours. Plus, people working from home or not working at all. So a lot of time on their hands. So with this article, they talked about how online gaming helped combat loneliness. It helps to build social skills, and also it helps kids to get exposure to people all around the world. When you do online, you're not just talking to people in America, you're talking to people all over the world. I've played with people in Africa, Netherlands, it really opens up your world, Also, emotional resilience is one other thing that they said was very beneficial. Just learning to have fun, learning that it's okay to lose. When you lose a game, it's okay. Don't get upset. Don't yell, because chances are, if you turn out to be that kind of gamer, people aren't going to want to game with you anymore. You're not going to have very many friends on online gaming. So it teaches you that it's okay to lose, and it's okay to go right back and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And then also they found that it helps with giving you a sense of achievement. When you beat a game, it makes you feel good. You have that intrinsic feeling of oh, wow, I'm good at something, or I'm great at something. And so they found those to be very, very beneficial. I'll say personally and professionally, I have quite a few clients who game. We talk about using that as self-care, because initially they'll always be shy, Mr. Reese, I do game. Is that self-care? And I'm like, heck yeah, that's self-care. That's great self-care. I use it myself. It's really good for mental stimulation, for relaxation, for stress relief. And again, it still gives you that socialization with other people. Gaming has a lot of great benefits. I feel like you're going to want to say something, because I saw you kind of looking like...
There's so much. I feel like there's so many great things. I feel like this is going to be a pretty positive pro-gaming podcast. That being said, my nature is to always kind of bring up things that I've heard from people who are not a fan of gaming. And also, depending on what you search, you'll find, oh, it's addictive. Just in general,
Mm-hmm.
I think we use our language in schools with parents like get away from the computer or get away from video games because it's addicting. Especially since the pandemic, there were so many parents who were hand-wringing about time lost where their kids would spend about 8 hours easily, 6 hours to 8 hours behind a screen. And so maybe that conflates the issue of gaming with screen time. But it seems like they all get lumped together. Yeah. So that's what comes up for me. I know in the DSM-5 and World Health Organization, they do have a blurb of internet gaming disorder. And there's, they talk about it having addictive qualities. But yet, when you look at it, it seems like a really small population really is addicted to video games. And the severity would have to be where it doesn't allow people to function at work and relationships and school. There's a criteria. And so I think maybe it would be helpful if people knew, oh, here's a checklist of criteria if your child is actually addicted to video games. But it would have to be over an extended period of time and kind of interrupt function of life, just like gambling or other, sources of addiction. So, yeah, that's just what came up.
But just like with anything, like we can all use something to excess, right? So if you're gaming excessively, yeah, it's probably going to have a negative impact on your life. I just feel like as parents, we just we need to stop trying to blame everyone and everything on, our kids acting out or having issues, especially when it comes to gaming. Like me personally, like, my kid's father was dead set against gaming. He did not want our kids on screens, on games, on anything. And, it took me a while to really convince him that it had, benefits. But my biggest thing to try to get him to understand is that, we don't have to have kids that are sitting in front of, an iPad or an Xbox or whatever for 12, 15 hours a day and not interact with them. We can join them. We can go play Fortnite with them. We can, get on Roblox with them. And we do, he's definitely come into doing that a lot more often the last year, learning various games. He even got his own Xbox gamer tag. It's weird. But, the kids love it. Like it's quality time with them. Fun time. It makes them feel like, their parents are a part of that, portion of their life that not a lot of kids feel like their parents are a part of. It connects you so much more with your kids. You're having, it's a little bit different than when you sit around playing board games as a family. Like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's very immersive. It's again, like you could sit there for hours sometimes, like I played Fortnite with my kid and his friend the other night, and it was just like, it just felt so good, and you get to see your kid in their own element too, talking to their friends and like they're talking to you like you're one of the crew. It's just really nice to see and interact and connect with your kids on a whole different level.
That gets me excited because number one, I compare playing board games with family versus video games. And when we play board games, there's always some type of fight or some type of, conflict. And somebody would end up getting up and walking away. But then when you talk about that feeling good when you're playing video games comes, for me, that brings up, as far as MRI scans and what they talk about with the brain, is that it really hits upon the dopamine, where your brain releases a lot more dopamine than if you haven't played video games. And they have compared that to, at least with some studies, it was only with males, where they would compare that to an amphetamine, that it's hitting the pleasure center in ways that other activities don't. But before we drone on and on, I have to ask, John, as in the gaming industry, Jonathan, in the gaming industry, what would you see, or did you guys have to deal with parent blowback as far as in marketing and that type of thing? Or do you have to consider parents when you're marketing games?
Yeah, absolutely. Not so much blowback on any of the titles that I've worked on, but we always have to adhere to the ESRB, which is a ratings board here in America. And in the UK, they've got a similar system called the PEGI system, which was developed essentially to give parents as much information as possible about the game, and so that they're informed on the content of the game. And so that's really helped, since the development of the ESRB, that's really helped curb a lot of the sort of reactionary parent reactions. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you don't hear too much anymore parent outbursts because of that rating system.
So actually, that made me start thinking about something. Like, I know we're focusing on the positives, but we also we can't be naive to not bring up the negatives. That did make me think a bit about, the quote unquote free to play games, like Roblox, Fortnite, Apex, I'll admit, I spent about $40 on Fortnite the other night just in V-Bucks because I was like, oh, there's new emotes in the game. I'm 43 years old. Imagine a kid, having access to their parents' account, like where you just push a button and you just keep pushing that button and getting all the cool stuff. Like I have had a child who, I think it was Robux. I think it was Robux at the time, but he was playing Roblox, and this was like maybe 5 or 7 years ago, and he just kept clicking away. And then his dad checked his account. He was like, I'm missing $300. What's going on? Luckily, during that time, they were a little bit more understanding, refunded the money, that kind of thing. And, we got it taken care of. But I'd be remiss not to mention that as parents, we have to pay close attention. We can't just, put our information on these iPads or the Xbox or whatever console and just say, here you go, babe, have at it. We need to monitor. We can't just blame the gaming industry. Although, Jonathan, I do have to say, I do wonder sometimes, what is going on? You put this stuff out there, not you, but they put this stuff out there, and it's it's almost like Vegas. You know what I mean? They tantalize and they're like, but it's free. But I'm curious your opinion.
It's true. It's true. So first, even within the gaming industry, I've heard stories of some of my coworkers' kids spending hundreds of dollars on games like Fortnite without their knowledge. That is a real issue. But to your point, parents have to pay attention. They got to pay more attention to their kids. They have to talk to their kids. There's any number of things that children can get into that's inappropriate if the parents aren't involved in their lives and having conversations. Spending a couple $100 on gaming actually is probably one of the least harmful things that a kid could get into in terms of misconception.
You're right.
In terms of the freemium model and the more predatory, I don't personally like that. I think that's greedy and wrong, and I've seen it before and worked for companies that have implemented gambling style gaming mechanics in their games in an effort to increase revenue. But again, a lot of those games are typically rated higher. I can't say all of them, but the ones I've worked for are typically rated higher. So, are parents buying games for their 12-year-old that should only be played by 17-year-olds or older?
Can you describe the gaming mechanics that you mentioned?
Well, I won't describe the game mechanic of the game I'm referencing because I don't want to call out my former employer.
Yeah.
But if you think about mobile gaming, I think mobile gaming probably has some of the most extreme examples where it's very actually psychological. There's a feedback loop where they present you bright colors, very fun sounds, a sort of a reward system for your mind. But then you'll hit a wall, and in order to progress in the game, you'll either have to upgrade, spend money.
I try to ghost them. I try to ghost them for a month, and then they come back and they give me all sorts of treats. Welcome back.
Yeah. We'll run promotional campaigns to win you back, and only because we know that if we win you back, the likelihood is that you'll spend money. Again. Or for the first time. Once you spend money once, you're going to spend money again.
I refuse to spend money, but I'm choosing low-level games. So,
what were you saying about the colors, Jonathan? Because I feel like what you were just saying again speaks to my Vegas metaphor of like the lights, the sounds, you know what I mean? Like suckering you in. I've actually never done. I did like some mobile gaming, like COD, Call of Duty. But I've never done outside of like Bejeweled. Like I do remember my mom getting into Candy Crush. I don't know much about Candy Crush, but I do remember like she was on it. Is that one of those types of games? Like
Candy Crush
I don't know anything about it. Like I don't know if you have to
awesome game. It's super fun. No, they call it a premium model. Wow. It's essentially the freemium model is, the basic game is free, but there's a premium, right, for additional features, services, or to continue playing. I think Candy Crush is a great example, but I don't think they're as predatory as some of the other ones. But certainly, like Candy Crush is super fun. It feels really good to clear a board, to move on, but at the same time, they have to make money. It's a free game. Yeah. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Candy Crush, I think, has been so successful that it seems like there are a lot of spin-off games that are taking that basic premise of clearing a board, getting prizes. So.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say that, having those internet or mobile games and their mechanics have made me aware of how that takes place in real life. I was at the roller skating rink with my daughters, and there was this huge gaming screen with like neon lights and red balls, and all you're doing is pressing a button over and over again to try to get a red ball into a bucket. And my daughter's like, "Oh, I want to play that game." And instead of me yelling and saying, "Don't waste your money on that, blah, 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 blah. And here's my plug for parents," instead be curious. And instead I ask, like, what's exciting about this game to you? What is blah, blah, and start a dialogue. And if you wear them down with questions, they'll end up walking away. Instead of saying, "Hey, that's a bad game," or "That's a waste of money." Because just because parents devalue something doesn't mean that that's not a value to your child.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of being a child in gaming, Lee, how did your parents deal with you gaming at a young age? Were they supportive?
My dad's the one who bought the first gaming computer, to be honest. So they weren't against it at all. But childhoods were different 20, 30 years ago. We went outside a lot more. We played in the woods, in the fields, in the parks, doing sports, rolling things down the street, down the hills. So I didn't just want to play games all the time. I wanted to be outside playing with the other kids in the street. So I don't think there was as much of a problem as you're playing it too much. And my parents probably were I don't remember so much, but they probably were like, okay, it's time to go do this, it's time to get off the game, it's time to eat. Not strict, but enforcing more of a structure rather than just, play games all day. Okay. So you don't bother me, which I think gaming is good for now. I think a lot of parents can just be like, you go play that game. I don't need to, worry about you for the rest of the day. You can do your thing and I can do whatever I want. And it's great. There's a good side of that, as in you can have your kids busy doing something. Some games they might even be using their mind. So that's not a bad thing at all. So it can be a good thing because you can get some time to do what you need to do. They can be happy, not asking you why this, why that, mommy this, daddy that. But I think there's, like with anything, there's a balance. Don't just let them play it all day because they're probably going to spend the last $300 in your bank account on in-game purchases, or they're going to sit there and that's all they're going to do all day, which, isn't good. And I say that as someone who, when a new season of a game I like comes out, I will sit there all day on a Saturday and play a game. I'm a very nice man. I can do that. I don't have anyone telling me not to, but I don't think it's that great sometimes.
How long does it take you to complete a brand new game? How many hours would you put in?
That's where I'm a sucker, and I play the kind of game that you can grind over and over and over again, and you never per se complete it. You just keep playing and playing and playing.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Can I ask you, Lee, like, in your opinion, because you as an adult gamer, there are games where you can sit there and you can play, continuously, like, and get lost in, right? Like, in your opinion, like, what are some of, like, the intrinsic, like, rewards that you feel like you get personally from gaming, the amount of hours that you may spend gaming? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I guess that's why I like playing the kind of games I like playing, because you sit there, play all that stuff for all that time, and then you might have this cosmetic on your character, you might have this weapon on your character that not everyone has. So you feel rewarded, your character feels powerful. So it feels worth the time putting in, rather than just playing a game where you complete the game, you play the game exactly the same way everyone else plays the game. I like customizable games where and that's why I think it does immerse you more, because it can become an extension of yourself. You're customizing your character based on your preferences, your choices. So yeah, I think the reward is your character at the end of the day. Your character having things that he didn't at the start, and you look at that and it's like, yeah, I've got that, and you feel good. But that can also have a knockback, as in your character is level 100, and then you come off the game, you look at your house, it's a mess, you look at this, you look at that, and you're like, I'm level 1. So your character's level 100. So there is that side to it. I think game's great. It's a great escapism. You can spend time conversing with people, playing with people, being interactive. It can take a lot of stress off your kind of working day, your normal day, life stresses. Can take that off. It's a great thing. But at the same, there is a bad side to it if you're too immersed in it and you spend too much time on it. I do believe there is a negative effect.
Jonathan, can I just ask you Oh, sorry. Can I just ask you real quick, Jonathan, like, in relation to what Lee was just saying, like, do you feel like working in the gaming industry that there are some games that are directly, advertised and put out there for adults to lose themselves in, to escape in, to disassociate in? Do you think that's in their mind when they put certain games out, like, towards adults?
I'd like to say that most AAA games are built by people that are passionate about storytelling and gaming, right? I think oftentimes gaming is a labor of love for people. It's an art. There's so many different types of games out there, and I think 99.9% of them are coming from a good and pure place. I think there are some mobile games that, again, have addictive qualities on purpose. But I think those are clear and easy to separate. So it's tough to talk about gaming so broadly. It's like talking about jazz or rock and roll. There's different types, right? Or even hip hop. There's different types.
Absolutely.
So certainly there are types of games, again, that freemium model that seem a bit more predatory. But I also think it's important to note that it's not like if you play that game, you got snapped by the evil mobile company and you're going to spend all of your life savings and you're going to end up in ruin and your kids are not going to be able to afford to go to college. We mentioned Candy Crush before. I just looked up. Candy Crush in 2013 made over $1 billion.
Wow.
Only from 4% of the player base. So that means
What?
90% of their player base is not spending money.
So wait, 4% spent about $1 billion? What the?
Yeah.
Wow.
But then what's the mass amount of people? So if 4% is spending that much in a year, how many people are playing that game?
Millions.
Yeah.
But still, so if only 4% are spending that kind of money, is that then on the 4% or is that on the company?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the numbers actually bring things more into focus because, it does make you feel like, okay, 90-something % were able to not spend money. So, if it were the company, you'd see those numbers a lot higher than 4%. Yeah. I mean,
it actually kind of lines up, though, that 4% are most likely addicted to games because if you take
or have addictive personalities,
absolutely, an addictive personality.
Or really grown-ass men and grown-ass women who say, hey, this is what I like to spend my time on.
I would love that to be the case, but there are other people who are like in World of Warcraft and are like, oh my gosh, I lost my life.
Oh my gosh.
And I never played
War
that.
Tanks. War Tanks.
Are those the type of games that...
I think it's like World of Tanks or War Tanks or something. Like I talked to someone who said like in 1 year they spent their life savings on that game. I was like, what?
I used to do marketing for that game, actually.
Really?
And there's a very passionate fan base. But again, gaming has evolved, as Lee mentioned earlier. Gaming has changed, culture has changed. But if you look at any hobby, people invest a ton of money into their hobbies. How is gaming any different?
That is a great point. That is a very great point.
It isn't, I would say. It's just another medium in which, people can enjoy themselves and other people take it too far. And also to answer that question of are they addicted or are they grown-ass men or women? There are some grown-ass men and women who are like 50, 60 years old who are addicted and it'll be like, I choose it regardless. You can have it and say, I'm not going to change it because this is what I want to spend my time and energy to. And you'll have to pry my controller or joystick out of a cold, dead hand. So.
Well, I mean, really, guys? Well, I'll say this, though. Yes, it has a lot of great benefits. And yes, when you're an adult gamer, you're a grown-ass individual making your own choices. But, there are a lot of grown-ass individuals who, are miserable in their life and they are depressed or, they just have extremely low self-esteem, extremely low self-worth, and they get into gaming and they build characters. Let's say Elder Scrolls, they go into games like Elder Scrolls and they're in there for their entire day, their entire night. And, while they're in it, they feel amazing. They feel like this is who I am. I'm this character. They meet people on this game as this character. It's almost like Ever seen those movies where you're like have an avatar and like you're like you feel like you're that avatar? Like it's just like that, but not your body doesn't physically change. Your mind does, though. Your mind goes into this belief that like this is me. I'm this character, and they get way too involved. And then they go back to their regular life and they're even more miserable because they feel like I'll never be this person. I won't have friends. I can't talk to people in real life the way I talk to them on the game. I have social anxieties or, I'm a huge introvert. I just stay to myself, whatever have you. So I do feel like in everything, moderation is super important, but I feel like, some people have to be very careful, like in, immersing themselves into certain types of games. Like, and I'm not naming these games to say they're bad or anything, but games like Elder Scrolls, games like
Elder Scrolls.
World of Warcraft, Skyrim.
I feel like a lot of this is,
I love Skyrim.
a lot of this is anecdotal because Skyrim is a single player game. But there's a lot of games like or online communities like Second Life was something that was big for a while, which is exactly what you were talking about, Doris, which is you have an avatar and you go into a world and you just fully immerse yourself in it. But I would be remiss to say that there are also people that meet their loved ones. They meet friends. They build communities that end up translating into real life. The research, honestly, and what I've seen in the years of working in this industry is way more positive than negative.
Absolutely.
Way more positive.
Yeah.
What are some positive anecdotes that you have to share?
I mean, again, like people meeting their spouse through gaming. People playing games online with their friends for years and then meeting up for the first time in real life. There are studies that there are cognitive benefits to playing games at a young age.
With
it
memory.
inspires creativity and growth. There's a lot of indie developers that really put forth content out there that really is fun and engaging for all ages.
Do you have time to talk to us, Jonathan, about the different types of games or level or genres of games? Because you mentioned AAA games. Can you break it down for a newbie like myself? How many different types of games are there?
There's a lot. And I don't know if there's like a set standard of ranking of types of games, but oftentimes when people talk about indie developers, they're usually from a small group or startup creating a game. AAA games are usually from like the large publishers like your EA. There's just a certain level of budget. It's almost like movies. A big blockbuster film from a major studio like Paramount or Warner Brothers versus like an indie film from like an A24. Similar to gaming. So you've got mobile games, you've got indie developers, you've got your AA titles, which have a sizable budget but not nearly as large as like your Call of Duty and your Fortnite, which would be considered AAA games.
Do you have any examples of AA games that come to mind?
Not off the top.
Okay.
I only work on AAA games.
So
yeah, this is my first time ever.
Are the games that you like? It's the other side behind the curtain. I was going to ask Lee, do you play mainly AAA games or were you even aware of that category?
I'm a kind of guy, I used to play a lot of different games, but later in life, I tend to play very few games. I like playing those games. For the last 4 years, Destiny 2 has been pretty much all I play. I might play a little bit of COD or play a little bit of this if I'm playing with people and they're playing those games. I used to love Forza Motorsport. Now I'm getting old. I find myself falling asleep after 6 laps around the track. But yeah, Destiny is the biggest game that I've played recently. But it used to be Halo a lot back in the day, GTA. So generally AAAs. I don't mess around with. There was a time when you're younger, it's just like, yeah, I'm going to play this AA, whatever game it may be, because it's easy. Gamer Score, is it Gamer Score on Xbox, where you have like a certain amount of points that you get from different games? So you might actually, when you're actually concerned about things like that, it's like, oh, I've got this much Gamer Score on my account, like, but I don't care about that anymore. I'm not going to play a game I don't want to play just to get some Gamer Score. So yeah, no, I'd say it's generally AAA games. I'm not sure if Destiny 2's class is just a AAA game. With the amount of money that Bungie just received from another company, I would assume so. But some people in the community might argue that. But yeah, no, it's a AAA game, and that's generally what I like playing, the big games.
I'm trying to look
I
at
like games that you don't have to spend money. I will spend money on it, but I like that I can play it and unlock things in the game.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
it's not everything. I recently played Fortnite with Doris, and I got on there and was like, I can't even change my character one bit without spending money. I was just like, this is terrible. Like, every game in existence, you get on and you could at least choose his hair, choose his skin color, choose his weight, tall, short. Like, you had some I can't even say the word. You had some way to customize your character. And the fact that you couldn't do a thing without spending money, I was just like, that's ridiculous. That's really bad.
It's so interesting, Jonathan, to your point. It seems like video games are this huge, huge genre that can't be defined. I mean, it can be defined, but probably it would be a 6-hour podcast. So.
Yeah, you could have a whole podcast about the different types of games. There are. I mean, it's a big industry. It's huge.
How many of you use gaming to relax? There are. A game for everyone? Is that an advertisement yet? There's a game for everyone.
What? A game for everyone? Yeah, there is a game for everyone. Absolutely. I looked it up, Leeds, because I had to know. I had to know if Destiny is a AAA game or not, because I didn't even know AAA, AA, 1A, C cup. I didn't know none of that stuff. I was just like, what is this?
C cup.
Destiny is a AAA game. Apparently, Assassin's Creed, another favorite of mine, is a AAA game. Another game that I really actually like is like Plague of Innocence. I like playing that on the side, and Stranger's Tale. Apparently that's a AA game, which I was kind of
cool
wondering about. But maybe like games that are kind of like story. Like I love storytelling games, like Walking Dead, Telltale games where it's just like you play a story.
The Walking Dead Telltale game was the first game to make me emotional.
Really?
Spoiling the ending.
Really?
Yeah, the first game where I cried was Walking Dead.
Because it was that good. I love games that immerse you in a storytelling like that, where I don't get me wrong, I love COD. I love getting in there and shooting people in the face. But I really love like a story where I immerse myself in that, in the characters that are in that story. And it's like, yeah, I agree with you, Jonathan. I'm gonna lie. I should have looked here. Or two or
Can't play enough of those actually. I agree, those games are really good. I don't play enough of them. Like, I think once in the past at Cyberpunk, although my short time playing that, like, the story was like, it got. I see you laughing because I think there's a lot of stuff going on with that release, but the story was actually really like immersive and good. And Fallout 4, I think, like the way that you talk to this person the wrong way, you're banned from coming to that village, they're going to kill you. Like that, immersive storytelling and being a part of the world, those games are good. I agree.
So I'm curious what our hosts think, because, I love games like that as well. And I've anecdotally defended games against an angry mother back in the early 2000s who, said that, oh, my son just gets fully immersed in this game and he's like transported to another world. And I said, oh, like a book. And like, yeah, but no one has any issues with books. Suddenly,
they do have issues with books.
they have well, I guess now they do have issues with books. You're right. But so I think about those immersive story-based games that this group seems to all love, and we can separate fact from fiction. So, do you think that there are certain type of people that already have either preconceived or what's the word I'm looking for?
You had it preconceived.
Not preconceived. Conditioned. They're already conditioned to be addicted. They have
addictive personality, absolutely.
Addictive personality.
Where all it just takes is
yes,
yeah, absolutely
Guilty.
You guilty? So I would say, like, I want to say, I'm trying to think of what I feel like it was. World of Warcraft or War Tanks. What is it called, Jonathan? Is it War Tanks or World of Tanks? Okay, I think it was World of Tanks, and I want to say World of Warcraft that I've had. Like, I actually had a few clients come in that were just addicted to the point where one of them, I believe, like, his wife was trying to leave him. Like, he was like, this is my last stitch effort, that, like, if I don't get help. And, like, before he found gaming, he was actually alcoholic. Like, and his wife was like, look, you don't get so then he found something else. Again, like with a lot of, when you talk about addiction and trying to quote unquote go cold turkey without therapy, without going to some type of support group, more times than not, you're always looking for something to replace it, and so lo and behold, he used gaming, but doesn't necessarily mean, again, all gaming is addictive. It just means that there are certain people that, like, they're, who have an addictive personality. And when you get involved with certain things like gaming or alcohol or drugs or gambling or sex or porn or whatever it is, you overindulge to the point where your body thinks that it needs it, it craves it, it depends on it, right? But population, that group is not the majority, but I feel like those are the people that get talked about. And then, of course, gaming gets a bad name.
Mm-hmm. How would one remedy that?
How would one remedy what? The addiction?
Yeah, those addictions to all of those things, right? So that desire that you think you need to play games, or if you're using gaming as an escape from your real problems, how does one come back from that?
Oh, well, I mean, I know and Jennifer, you can speak to it too, but I know with my clients, I mean, I treat it as I do any other addiction. Like, we do, relapse and prevention. We do, like, so some of the main things, obviously, let's get to the root of what else is going on in your life while we're trying to get you quote unquote sober, to get you to abstain from whatever it is. And then obviously we're replacing it with positive coping mechanisms across the board. Right. But again, one thing I've found is, like, it's not just the addiction per se that needs to be addressed. It's, I know everybody's tired of me talking about trauma, but there's always somewhere. Yeah, underneath it all, there's always some type of trauma that's happened that they're trying to escape. And more times than not, like, sometimes, like, again, you may have an addictive personality. You use something one time, a flip gets switched, and, you're addicted. But there are also people who become addicted to things, who overly use something, may not become dependent to it where they get into withdrawals, but, they just feel like they need it all the time. And it's because they are trying to escape. They're overindulging in something because they're unhappy with, their life, or they have experienced a trauma, and they maybe don't have the words to express, or even, the safe space to express, like, what's happened to them, especially as men. I don't know if you guys can attest to this, but as men, like, men aren't really, safe in the society to talk about trauma, to talk about things that have happened to them. And so they escape, they push it down. They, try to ignore. And so as far as like addiction goes, it follows the same path as, gaming addiction goes. It follows the same path as any addiction. Like, you want to address the addiction first, as far as like going to support groups. And there are actually support groups out there for gaming addiction if you want to look it up. But going to support groups, again, going into the relapse and prevention, the recovery, all of that just includes gaining coping skills, making sure that you stay away from people, places, and things that you were around before, and then just getting a really good support network and support system. I hope that answered your question. Did I answer your question?
I think it does. And it's more of like it's a lifetime management.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not
only
something
if
that
you again have an addictive personality is it a lifelong journey. Like if you're just using it, if you're abusing it, right? Because there's a difference between, being dependent on something and abusing it. Yeah. So if you're abusing it, yes, you can get to a point where you become addicted to it. But, it's not because you have an addictive personality. It's because, again, that's your go-to. It makes you feel good. It gives you all the feels and it helps you escape. Right. So we need to escape from.
Like, men and women, if you play a lot of games, you play a lot of games. It's not the worst thing in the world. You could be out there committing crime, doing whatever. I don't think it's a big thing. Like, you as a man or a woman, as an adult, you choose what you want to spend your time in. Unless you're, like you say, you're using it to escape from trauma or whatever, there may be some issues there. But generally, I think it's okay. I think the main issue when these topics are brought up, like gaming and mental health, is that a lot more focused at young people, kids, teenagers? Are they not the real kind of target, the focus of that question? Is there a problem with gaming? Does it rot your brain? Is it a disorder?
Mm-hmm.
So
what you guys think on that?
From the research that I saw, a lot of the addiction came from adult populations. It seems that there aren't many examples. I haven't seen any examples of actual studies in children being addicted, but maybe it's because it's outside of their control. And it's hard to see dysfunction unless there could be so many other factors causing dysfunction in a child's life that they wouldn't necessarily pinpoint it on gaming. And so a lot of articles will deal with adult populations. But again, it seems like what we're hearing is that from across the board, there's not enough research. It's still young. And it's kind of like common knowledge from parents where it's like, you're going to go blind if you watch TV, or your brain's going to rot if you play video games. There's not really a lot of scientific proof. And we could find articles, they do MRI brain imaging. But it is a human, like from this conversation, gaming is coming across to me as an art form that influences the brain and releases pleasurable hormones like dopamine. And that's part of the human experience, that people will want to have that to relax after a stressful day, to escape. Like some people are dealing, and in some industries, so much stress that they need to be transported to hear a different story. And a game that tells a beautiful story that's inspiring, or again, being in a world or a culture where you feel or have feelings of self-efficacy, where you're like, wow, I'm so capable and I can influence these large amount of people in this gaming world. I think that's a positive, natural response.
Kids, though, I think, like Jonathan was saying, parenting. If you're having a conversation with your kid, if you're monitoring your kid, you know your kid, then it shouldn't be a problem because you see everything going on. As a parent, you can implement time restrictions, screen restrictions. My brother is quite strict on that. And when I'm around there, my nephew's playing, and he'll be like, okay, that's it, go upstairs and do whatever, or go outside and get some fresh air. And I think that's good. So I guess there's not a problem with kids if the parenting is strong, but then is it why the parents are maybe asking the question or thinking that it is a problem is when you tell your kid to get off the game and your kid rages at you, your kid becomes rude to you because all he wants to do or she wants to do is play that game. They don't want to do anything else. So is that a problem, or is that going to be the same as if they're having fun doing anything else? Like, you take your kids to a trampoline land and they're having fun and it's time to go, kids. No, I don't want to go, I'm having fun. Like, is it the same as any other kind of fun, something they enjoy that they just don't want to stop? Is it really related purely to gaming?
I think you're right for the most part. As you were describing it, yeah, transitions can be difficult for children at all different ages. And so, again, that can look into the parenting relationship and, how parents and children respond. That being said, I do joke with my children that I could get away with a lot. I could do a lot of things to them while they are behind a screen because they kind of glaze over and are completely focused. So that's why moms will put their daughters in front of a TV or playing video games. Oh, I've got complete compliance. I can braid their hair. I can do all sorts of things. Whatever dopamine is being released, all of a sudden they're not noticing the pain of me brushing too tightly or brushing too hard. So yes, transitions across the board. Kids are going to resist and push back, whether it's getting them out of bed, even sleep, waking them up for school.
Oh my goodness.
Which we could talk about, on another day, but
I want to hear that podcast.
I actually, when I said it, I'm like, I want to talk about that podcast too, but I might get in trouble since I work at a school.
Honestly, I feel like you pretty much answered your own question there. Like, it absolutely is just transition. Like, kids are kids. Like they are, that brain development at that age is very intrinsic, very, they're selfish, they're center. I don't say that in a negative way. I'm saying it in the sense of like, it's hard for them to see outside of themselves, and they're going to be seeking things that make them feel good. Right. And as we get older, we start to realize there's more to just, seeking things that make us feel good. It's more about, okay, what else is going on outside of my world, and so absolutely, Jennifer, like transition, like getting my kid out of bed. like it takes me forever to get them in the bed. And then when they're asleep and I go in there to wake them up, it's all, what? No, I want to have to go to school, because kids want to do what they want to do. Period.
That's not to kids. I'm an adult and I still don't want to get up in the morning.
And you added, this is where the conflict comes up, is that a video game provides reinforcement of the excitement of the now. And this is what I'm focused on, and I don't want to walk away.
Absolutely.
And I know that I've had parents who have complained about their sons playing video games and not talking to the parents or wanting to talk to them. And I think in high school, there's the structure of the school is, okay, you're a freshman, you're 13 years old, all of a sudden you need to start thinking about the future and planning and starting to take action. We're expecting you to take action to plan for the consequences 4 years from now. And what you see is that, especially maybe more so since we've come back from shutdown, kids are like, meh, I'd rather be on my phone. Meh, I'd rather be playing video games. I don't care. As I was counseling one junior, he was like, yeah, my parents would always ask me these questions. And he's like, that's what future Sam has to worry about. That's not his name, but, and it's like, yeah, I don't need to worry about this stuff. That's future Sam's problems. And really, I think that can be a conflict where parents are like, you need to be serious you can't be playing games all the time. Think about being outside and vitamin D, or think about working hard or putting as much effort into schoolwork. So
it's interesting because it's fascinating to hear from your perspective as someone in the school system saying that, because we just had a board of directors meeting at the company that I'm currently working at, which I'll just say is a tech company that is gaming adjacent. And they were saying that one of the challenges we currently have is people not wanting to engage with technology right now, not wanting to be playing games because, and I think it would be really interesting because I think it might be demographic based, like age based, and the certain years that you lost in the pandemic, because we're seeing like a certain age group who just wants to find a third place, I think is what it's called, like a place in real life to go gather and hang out. One of our board members anecdotally talked about his son and his friends wanting to just go on road trips, just be outside. And so it's interesting. We're seeing in the pandemic, our industry flourished. It was huge, and now it's shaky. It's shaky, and I think you're seeing that also with tech and all the current tech layoffs right now. It's because everyone scaled up during the pandemic.
Yes.
But now people are engaging a little less with that technology.
Well, industries across the board are trying to call people back from working remotely. And it's like, time to come back to the office. Even for, and it's kind of, I think there's resentment where even in the school, we were doing professional development. And it's like, hey, you need to be on site to participate for this Zoom workshop. And it's like, really? And so it seems like a concerted effort to move away from the reliance on tech that we used to have. But I'm curious about the demographics that you're seeing want to gather outdoors. Because I know people in their late 30s, there are some who had spent a lot of time on media seem to be not showing up on social media anymore.
Yeah, I think it might be those folk that lost like their last couple years of high school.
Okay.
Who are likely no longer in high school, who are going into college.
Okay.
Who lost like their junior and senior year.
Okay. So I do have that tracks with some of my seniors who spend a lot of climbing and are wanting to go out of state. But the freshmen, are a totally, different story.
I feel like it all goes back to, once again, moderation, right? Everything in moderation. Like, as parents, we don't have to. I know so many parents who are just like, oh, you let your kids play video games? Like, I would never. And I'm like, well, good for you. But my kids are straight A's, gifted program, chess player, and still go outside. Really sweet, mannerable kids to out in the real world. So, what are your kids doing? Oh, one got expelled last week. Oh, they're making. Okay. But yeah,
are you throwing shade?
Like, don't let your kids game because I'm a horrible parent for letting. No, like, everything again in moderation. Don't. You're doing your kids a disservice to limit them. Don't just automatically assume my kids are never going to game. My kids are never going to be exposed to any of that because it, quote unquote, rots their brain. In actuality, there's plenty of research out there showing the mental health benefits, the cognitive benefits that gaming has on all of us, children, teens, adults. Like, it's extremely beneficial. So don't close yourself off to the possibility of just exposing your kids to things that could be beneficial to them just because you heard through the grapevine that it rots your brain. Do your own research, and again, be present. Like everyone has spoke to today, like, don't just sit your kid in front of the TV, give them a controller and say, deuces, let me go get a glass of wine and, sit on the phone for hours. Like, watch what your kids are doing. I know it's easier said than done.
Are you all as teachers and his parents, or his counselors and his parents, hearing that a lot from parents that they don't want their kids on video games? Because from my world, gaming has become so ubiquitous with life and culture that it doesn't seem like there's much of an issue from parents anymore.
I've only heard one parent talk about it, and it was in relationship to how to relate to their son, and him not talking. And I recommended to them to play the game with their son. It would be hilarious. And really, it's, that just is, I think that speaks to something else about parenting and power dynamics, where you see a child developing and at first they're drawn to, I want to do whatever mom and dad does. And then as they enter into adolescence or pre-adolescence, they're more interested in their peers and then also what's important to them. And so in that relationship, are parents going to meet their children and support them for what gives them joy? So that was one thing I think in schools. As far as addicting, I think I hear more about social media and phones now than games. How about you?
I don't know. I was just thinking probably, Jonathan, you might feel that way because you're immersed in that environment, like gaming is all around you. And so like, I will say, like, most of the parents that I know, they, if they allow their kids to game at all, is very, very limited. And, all of the clients that I have, like, who are new parents, they're, very dead set against their kids having an iPad, having any type of gaming console. Like, it's rough. Like they view it like, but it rots their brain. Like, but okay, if I expose my kid to this, like, they're not going to be smart. They're not going to do their schoolwork. They're not going to, and I'm like, that's where the parenting comes in. Like, you can expose your kids to certain things, give them these outlets, and make sure that it's in moderation. Make sure that they're still doing all the things and, teaching them the values that they need to know that, like, what's important in life, not to walk around like the game is the only thing that's important in my life, like, no, schooling is important. My friends are important. My family is important. Like, knowing that there are other things in their life that they need to also, like, foster. And
I will say, I have to speak because I was that hippie parent who was like, we're not going to have a TV. And it really wasn't, we're not going to have a TV. And there are many parents, and I hear, because I listen to some podcasts, it's mainly about children's attention. And it's not actually about the kid being addicted or them doing harm to them. For me, it's, the TV is like the cheapest nanny ever. And so when you're exhausted, it's, do I trust myself to be able to let them interact with entertainment and not be like, mommy's asleep with a bottle of wine? Haha, just joking. But no, seriously, it's a long...
She said, just joking.
No, but seriously. So, and a lot of the times I have heard, I didn't do that. I didn't get rid of screens because, I don't know, I love pop culture so much. And I think entertainment and gaming and movies and that media, that grand media, is a great way to peer at human development and know about culture. And I would occasionally hear of people who are very like, oh, my child doesn't eat sugar or watch TV at all. No screen time. But it turns out, actually, it was a grandparent bragging about their daughter. But it was the fact that they were filthy rich and they could hire an individual to interact with their kid when the parents were exhausted. So having a nanny or an au pair is a totally different experience. And that doesn't mean that wealthy people don't play video games, but they have an added individual or human to interact with their kids. So
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that? Okay, so it's an escapism. Gaming can be it can be a form of escapism, which can be good. Sometimes we need to escape. As long as we don't get too immersed in that world and forget about the real world, like we spoke on, then it's fine. Moderation.
Yeah.
Also, it can, as well as escapism, which may be part of the escapism, is you can take your stress out and your frustration. Like Doris, she just wants to beat you in the face when she plays games. That can take some stress out, right?
Yeah.
So is that actually healthy to take your stress out on virtual players rather than go and shoot up a school or something like that, God forbid? You know, is it kids that aren't getting any form of stress release that are more dangerous? Just a question.
Sounds like a great research.
Idea.
It sounds like a great research question.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe should be looked into.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, again, as far as parenting goes, like, you know, when you have to be very careful with the types of games that you allow your child to, and I think Jonathan spoke to this a little bit earlier, like, you know, the rating, like, pay attention, like, don't have your 7-year-old playing a game that is, you know, that says
GTA.
right there on the package. Apps.
GTA.
Oh my gosh.
GTA 5 Online was one of my favorite gaming experiences because, I mean, you can't really get immersed in it because it's very cartoony, but it is so much fun to go around in this fake version of Los Angeles with your friends, running missions, blowing things up, getting into car chases, chatting with people from all around the world, and nothing is more jarring than suddenly hearing a child's voice in that world. And it's like, what are you doing here? Why are you playing this game right now? And then they're like, oh man,
big screen,
bro. And like, what? Saying words that I don't feel comfortable saying on this podcast. And
that makes me laugh.
Where are your parents? Where are your parents? This game is a game where you can blow up the cops, go pick up a sex worker, shoot a pedestrian in the face. Look, I love that game. But
he's like, it's a great game.
It's a fantastic game.
But you're absolutely right. Where are the parents? Like, pay attention. Like, I have actually had to tell a parent one time, like, you know, because they were like, oh yeah, my kid was on that, what is it called? Like Grand Auto. I was like, Grand Theft Auto? And they were like, oh, is that? Yeah. And I was like, your kid's like 8 years old. Like, wait, do you know what that game is? Or like, oh no, he just said that, like, they drive around and do missions and objectives. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He gets, I was like, you need to sit down with your kid and actually, no, stop. I was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do as a parent. I was like, but I can assure you that game is not for little kids. And they were like, really? And I mean, they rushed home. Like, they were just, but my almost 15-year-old still is like, I think he stopped asking me maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, but he would be like, all my friends play GTA and I want to play. And I'm like, no. Like, we will get on some Fortnite. We will play some Destiny or whatever. You are not getting on Grand. I myself feel flustered when I play it. I'm like, oh, that sex worker what is happening right now? Like, did somebody just run some, like, and then also having it online and people on there, like, they're adults, they're free, they just want to speak what's on their mind, you know, like you said, Jonathan, you want to get on there and hear a little kid tell some, what's up, bro? like we going to hit that strip club? Like, how old are you? Like, what? Yeah, so parents, just pay attention when your kid asks. Gaming is great. If your kid asks for a game, do your due diligence, research the game, make sure it's appropriate for them.
What age would you recommend GTA being?
I'm sorry.
It would be the same as an R-rated movie. It's 17.
Yeah.
The rating board suggests 17 and up.
I think 15, 16 is okay, depending on how sheltered of a childhood you've lived. But for me, I think it was about that age when I started playing games like that.
I would say that sounds like it's...
No.
What's that?
No.
Yeah.
I would say that...
I disagree.
I would lean towards 15 as well.
I disagree.
But I also feel like 15-year-olds should be working on their career at that time and not be.
Oh wow!
Like pick the.
Well,
I think they should be. I think they should be kicked out of the house and start working on a trade.
I respect. I disagree with you guys, but I respect all of your opinion. But I'm gonna say, as a mom with almost 15-year-old, no, he is definitely not ready.
What were you doing when you were 15?
That's what I'm saying. I was one of the goodies. I'm still a goody. I get on GTA. I'm like, I don't run anybody over. I just want to do my objectives. I'm good. But I don't want my son exposed to GTA 5. I would say 18 and older, because I do feel like, I don't want my 15-year-old going to a strip club and a video game. I don't want him, Do you
think he would go to a strip club?
I get that, but like in the game, it's not
readily. He would have to. I would say, wouldn't you say that the game is what you make of it, and your child, if you're sitting there with him while he's playing, is he really going to go into the strip club?
No.
He ain't gonna go to the strip club.
Hell no. I stand by my comment that, pay attention to what your kids are watching. Be there with them. But I am not going to sit there and watch my kid play Grand Theft Auto. I would rather say no. I don't want that. No.
He might be sweet. He might just be focused on the objectives, just like you.
Nah. When I was 16, I was getting in the car with the sex worker, and then the car would start rocking, and then she gets out, and then you run her over and take the money back. That's the kind of stuff you do in that game.
Serial killer.
So, Lee, can you honestly say that you think that at Lucas's age, he is ready to play Grand Theft Auto 5 online?
Wait, hang on. He's not long turned 14.
No, he will be 15. He will be 15 in June.
In June, so somewhere between June and next June, quite possibly, yes. 16 is that age where you're exposed to everything. You know everything. Nothing's hidden anymore, You have access to, nowadays, even the internet. Everything is there at your grasp. Like, you can't be that sheltered at 16 anymore. And if you think your kid is, they're probably not. They're probably smoking behind your back. They're probably doing this behind your back.
This is the end of reality check. Lee Harvey.
I'm taking off my therapist. My therapist hat is off.
Take your kid out of school. Take your kid's phone away. No internet, because you're not going to hide it. And I'm sorry, pixelated strippers in GTA 5 is, I think, the least of your concerns. And frankly, all of this GTA 5 slander, is partially warranted, because you're right. You can kill sex workers in that game. You can elicit their services. You can murder. You can do a lot of things. But you know what? There's also a lot of great things you can do in Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
There's a whole creator platform where you can build levels, which for someone that has an interest in Lego or level design, that's pretty awesome to be able to build an insular world yourself and play around with that. I had friends where we would just go into their, we call it like a lobby, and they would build like ramps and tricks and like loops, and we would just get cars and just honestly just have pretty not mindless, but pretty harmless fun. So I think if you, once again, to your point, Doris, talk to your kid and say, hey, you can play Grand Theft Auto 5. I just don't want you going down to I don't want you to go to Cinnamon. Just like if you were to let your kid go outside in the real world, be like, you can go outside. I don't want you going to 24th Street, because I know what goes on.
Great point. Absolutely. Okay. I'm here with this.
That's awesome.
Okay. I'm a little better now. Oh my gosh. Well, I will say we're going to go ahead and wrap up, because I know
I have one more question. I have one more Grand Theft Auto question. can you be
Is it a good thing?
can you be a sex worker as your character? Can you choose
No.
to, like?
I mean, you could dress like one, but no, you couldn't actually like.
Well, I don't think I don't think you could be a
Profession.
prostitute.
Because
And it was minor. It was like the car would start rocking. You wouldn't see anything. There's no
Okay.
graphic. You don't see any nudity or anything like that.
Okay.
Jennifer's like, so can I be
I would just say that it would
There's more graphic.
I would
There's
say
more
that would
graphic
be more
content
empowering.
on their parents' Instagram.
No,
To be honest,
Whoa.
there's more graphic content on their parents' Instagram and Facebook or whatever than there is on their.
That's awesome to hear. Well, I want to
Mm.
play it. You guys now have sold me. I got so excited.
She's like, give me those gamer tags. We gonna get on GTA 5 tonight.
I'd wait till GTA 6, but you might be waiting another 10 years, so good luck.
GTA 5 came out in 2013.
Wow.
On PlayStation 3, and we're now on
Mm.
PlayStation 5.
Wow.
And it's still one of the best. It's still one of the best-selling games.
That's
Mhm.
GTA 5
amazing.
Online. It is.
One of the most
Like,
widely
Makes me
referenced.
wanna jump back on.
Wouldn't you
I
say,
don't play
John?
it anymore because
Good.
they patched all the money glitches, and I want a new game. Don't make it. Stop milking the old one. 2013. It's ridiculous.
That's how I feel
But
about
it is
Elder
like
Scrolls.
widely referenced too. If you notice, like it's mentioned in TV shows, it's mentioned in songs, it's mentioned in movies, it's mentioned it's everywhere. Like people do memes, and it's like, oh, I'm a GTA, I'm a person walking in GTA. Like it's widely known. For 10 years, it has been,
Longer than that. You had 4 other versions before that game. That's what I'm saying.
I'm
I've
only
been
talking
that game
about-
since I was a teenager.
I'm only talking about GTA 5. Like
They're pretty much the same.
I remember playing GTA 2, and I liked it, but I had other distractions.
I don't think I ever played anything before GTA.
Vice City or Liberty City, I always do.
Yeah.
And I will say, in effort to keep the podcast from not being too long, we're trying to keep, so I'll, just say, does anyone have any final comments, anything that they feel like they just want to put out to the world concerning gaming that they want to leave people with?
Gaming is an art. Use it responsibly and enjoy.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's like any other thing in life. You do too much of it and you focus on just that, then that's all you're going to have. Like, do everything in moderation, have variety in your life. Nothing wrong with getting on a game and having some fun, and you might meet some people on there and be surprised. So go for it.
There are way more success stories out there with gaming and people that are alone, that are lost, that are confused, that have found community. There are studies that show the benefits in children playing games and the cognitive benefits that they have and their ability to undertake tasks that require cognitive skills. It's a great escapism. It's a great form of storytelling. It's a great career. There are so many benefits to gaming in the gaming industry. But again, moderation, intention, and communication is important.
And I'm not going to come behind that with anything else because I think that was perfect. You 3 summed it up perfectly. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming in and joining us from the gaming industry. Thank you, Lee, for coming in and joining us, giving us some more perspective from the gamer side. Cuz, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
This is so much fun. Thank you all.
Yes, as always. Everybody take care and, we'll end it there.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.